Hi everyone! I hope you're having a good weekend and that you are taking the time to take a break and rest and relax. I wanted to make a quick video today because I've received several messages from you. And for whatever reason, they all had a similar theme, which is what can we do to pass the exam if we haven't passed it on multiple attempts before? And this is a different question than what can we do to pass the exam, because I think that the mindset that we go into and the confidence with which we take the exam is vastly different when we are on our fifth attempt versus our first or second attempt. And although I passed the MBCOT on the second attempt, I know what it feels like to be caught in seemingly what feels like a cycle of not being able to overcome what appears to be an impossible hurdle. And that for me was math. If you guys have watched my other videos, you know that I was diagnosed with learning disability. I was always underestimated. I was told that I wouldn't go to college. I mean, there were a lot of things that were spoken over my life, particularly when it came to doing, when it came to arithmetics. And I think for me, that put me in a certain type of mindset, and to have a mental breakthrough was actually more difficult than learning how to do math itself. And I wanted to talk about this today because I think this applies to many of us who have not passed the exam on fourth and fifth attempt. Now, if you feel that you will never pass the exam because you've taken it so many times before, that is powerful. What happens, I think, is we get into this fear, and this fear is so paralyzing. The fear that you won't pass, the doubt that creeps into your mind. If you think, if I didn't pass the last 4 or 5 times, what's the chance that I'm answering this question correctly? And so even if it might be the correct answer, you start second guessing everything. And this is really dangerous because the moment you lose faith and belief that you can do this, everything becomes uncertain. And in a moment of uncertainty, it's really hard to think clearly. And so to those of you who have not passed on multiple attempts, I want to encourage you not to think about what more you can study, but how you can gain your confidence and your mental stamina again. Think about what sort of mental barriers you are faced with today. Think about the negativity that you might hold over your life and start to challenge those thoughts that you have that are not true. And you may think that you're alone when you're on your 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th attempt, but I will tell you that you are not alone. These aren't things that get shared on social media, but I can't tell you how many messages I've received in the last 6 months from students and recent graduates who are on their 8th, 9th, 10th time, and there's nothing to be ashamed of that. I don't think it has anything to do with your intelligence or your capacity to learn. You probably know more things than most of us. You just feel like you're paralyzed in this, and crippled in this mental prison that we put ourselves in, which is, I can't do this doubt that we have of whether or not we can do it. And that's what it does. When you've had multiple attempts and these attempts didn't lead you to the outcome, we tend to doubt everything that we do. And that's perhaps the most dangerous thing about, not dangerous, but that's perhaps the most debilitating thing about not passing the first time, because it makes us feel like we can't do it anymore. But I will tell you, if you can break and shatter that paradigm that you can't do it, I think that's when you will pass. Once you can pass mentally in your own mind that you can do this, you have to break out of this cycle, the cycle that makes you feel like you can't do it. And I'll tell you, I think that's more difficult than answering correctly on the MBCOT. And that's not easy to do. I think it's a lifelong journey, and it's something I have to do all the time. But when you can overcome yourself and your sense of inadequacy, your sense of I cannot do this, I think that's when you really win. That's when you really pass, not just on the exam, but in life. And so my last minute tip, if you're taking the exam next week, I would say work on yourself, guard your heart, your mind against all of the thoughts that have undermined you and your potential. Stop thinking that you can't do it. Just because you didn't pass the last 4 or 10 times doesn't mean that you won't pass this time. And I'm not talking about that fake confidence where you're like, I can do this, but inside you really don't think you can do it. I'm talking about like really, really believing that you can do it. And it starts by challenging all of those negative thoughts. It happens in the quiet stillness of your own room when you can stare at yourself, all of your mistakes that you've made, all of strengths you have, and still coming to accept and understand your potential and capacity to pass this, regardless of the past that makes you feel like you might not be able to, silencing that voice to say, yes, I can do this, and then walking into that prometric center like an entry-level practitioner that you will be when you get out of that prometric center, and going in there not being shy or scared or being paralyzed in fear, but knowing that you can do it and answering every question as if you were already a practitioner practicing. I think that's really important, and I think that's the most important thing you can do for yourself before the exam. Confidence does affect your performance, and if you believe that you can't, even if outwardly you're saying that you can, if inside you really don't feel like you can, you probably can't. But if you really believe that you can, you will approach each question differently. There will be a certain power that you feel within yourself, and that is something that money cannot buy. That's not something I can instill in you. Only you can nurture and hone that. And once you hone that, no one will be able to take that away from you. That's yours to keep forever. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Don't let anyone or anything make you feel like you can't. Silence that voice and go in there and show them what you got.